Thaddeus McCotter. He is a happy hour regular, but he is making his debut in the flesh at the bar. Welcome, sir. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
We've also got Bill Fleckenstein on the phone. He is the founder of Fleckenstein Capital. That is a hedge fund. Good to see you, sir. So we're making fun of the whole, where's your money?
I got my money right here.
That would be your, what is it?
This is the TARP money. This is
how much money you will have if we weren't bailing out the life insurance.
You did ask about how much money this is relative to the TARP, and in all seriousness, TARP is $800 billion. It would take 8,000 suitcases full of wads of this in order to equal TARP, and that's what we're sending to Michigan through the Detroit TARP and through the banking sector.
Well, the latest one, Congressman, the life insurers. Yeah. Should we now be bailing out the life insurers?
Well, no. As you know, first, that would get you a good haircut.
Secondly, yeah, he needs one.
You could really. I don't. Secondly, let's not forget, I opposed the TARP from the beginning. It has to end. You're pointing out slippery slopes. We're seeing people unable to distinguish between contracts for goods and services with strings attached, such as being able to fire their executive boards. Those remedies are properly in place already in the judicial system, or withdraw the contract. That's different than subsidizing companies that are ready to go into bankruptcy. So it has to end.
But let me ask you this. I mean, you're from Michigan, obviously, so the car industry is very important to you. But at the same time, now we're talking about life insurers today. That's the latest report. And again, where does it all end? Because if you're going to have government continually going in and putting in taxpayer money to save private business, the U.S. government is now going to be the biggest company out there, and you, Congress, is going to be the CEO of it.
That's frightening. I know people in Congress. The reality is, for the auto companies, it's 60 days for GM, it's 30 days for Chrysler, and/or bankruptcy, depending on the viability that comes out. But with TARP, as it's constituted, with the elastic clause that's in there, any financial instrument that may have an impact on the market, this thing was designed to do what it's doing, which is why it should never have been passed, and which is why the only way to fix this is to go back to the seminal mistake and undo it.
Amen.
So everyone's talking about the whole bankruptcy aspect of it. I look at it and I say, okay, well, we always talk about how we don't want the government involved in the company. We're already heck involved already. But, if you have a bankruptcy, then a bankruptcy judge is the one determining how this company should be reorganized rather than the management. So yet it, again, is taking away from our whole capitalistic system. And this is what everyone is afraid of, Congressman.
Well, this is where the key was. The false choice in the Wall Street bailout at the beginning was that if you did not do what the Bush administration and Paulson wanted to do, you wanted to do nothing. There were alternatives put forward by people such as Luigi Zingales at the University of Chicago for a prepackaged structured bankruptcy debt for equity swaps that would have been almost held the taxpayer harmless, achieved the purpose of allowing recapitalization.
Bill, let me throw it over to you a little bit. You and I have been talking about this stuff for years, fighting the Federal Reserve, cutting rates, and it gets to be overt at this point, the amount of corporate welfare that's going on out there. Bill, once again, man, I'm just trying to get some bullishness and some optimism out of it. Look, walk me through 3-5 years down the road. Am I going to be able to keep these Republicans and Democrats' hands off of my money or what?
Who knows? I mean, it's essentially financial chaos. Because we're going to print more money, we're going to come with more programs, and who knows where it's all going to be, and who knows where we are in the print fest. The government changes the rules all the time. We have this silly notion that the uptick rule abolishment caused stocks to go down. The same people that believe that are the same ones who believed subprime was contained or was just subprime. So people that had no understanding of the problems are now saying this is the problem.
I blame your negativity. That's basically what caused the economic downturn. It was Bill Fleckenstein's negativity.
Right. Had I been positive, then all of the ridiculous lending to anyone with a pulse would never have caved in. Yep, you're about right. I think so.
All right, Congressman, I have to focus you a little bit on GM. We're hearing now that it could be in about 3 weeks that GM is going to have to file, making a good company, making a bad company. Certain parts of it, certain lines are going to stay, Chevy, Cadillac, other parts going to go like Buick. Can you comment on that? 47,000 jobs on the line.
Yeah, at least 47,000 jobs. As you know, the plans that the companies put forward that were deemed not viable by the administration had 47,000 jobs out of GM, 3,000 out of Chrysler. So what the future holds for us is rather stark. The acceleration of the restructuring process will have societal costs. Those will be borne by the taxpayer, and these families will be hurt. But we accept that because that's the decision that's been made. We just want some direction as to what we need to do.
You're a Michigan congressman that is saying this. I mean, you do believe that bankruptcy is the best option for General Motors.
But hold that,
it's
because we're going to go to Shivani Joshi in the next block, you guys. I want to focus on the automakers in the next block. Let's focus on the markets in this block, because we're going to go to the auto show. We really want to get your take on some of the stuff that they're featuring out there. Bill, let me get your reaction. I have an article in which you are quoted. Let's talk about all the regulation. Let's move it back to the markets, focusing on all this new regulation that the administration wants to do. And you're saying, we didn't get into this mess because we need new rules. We got into this mess because they weren't enforcing the rules. But then, I know Cody says the same thing, but a lot of the rules, Bill, that they're talking about doing, like now actually having regulation of credit default swaps and the whole premise where the government can take over non-financial institutions. These are new rules. These are rules that could have helped us prevent this situation.
Well, we wouldn't have any necessity to take over corporations had we not gotten in this mess. I grant you that creating regulations for CDS is not a bad idea. And I'm not saying that no new rules would make any sense, but let's face it, we didn't get into this predicament because of a lack of rules. We got into this predicament because of an abdication of responsibility on the part of the Federal Reserve, the OCC, the OTS, Congressional Oversight Committees, and Greenspan printing money, and all the bailouts prior to the new bailouts, which caused people to disregard risk. So this was did not come about because regulations weren't in place. It came about because regulations weren't followed.
Congressman, and how about that? I mean, that's just it. We've already, you don't need more regulations on even hedge funds. If they do something illegal, it's already illegal. Fraudulent is fraudulent. A is A. It seems to me that we
You don't catch it until they do something that's already illegal. You want to prevent that.
Right, well, and that's just it. I mean, we basically, Madoff, we have all the regulations in the world, and Madoff has to admit to us before we catch him. Well, how about it?
If you build a better rat trap, you just get smarter rats. People will find a way. The law is there to punish and to deter, but it cannot absolutely serve as a prophylactic against people acting badly.
What it seems to has happened now is we've basically institutionalized this idea, though, that gains will always be privatized, whereas losses will be socialized. It's on an institutional, governmental level now.
Well, unregulated AIG was as much as heavily regulated Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, so that regulatory argument goes both ways. But he put his finger on the word. The word was chaos, because the chaos that we saw in the financial markets is now being mirrored by the chaos in the government thanks to the TARP program. No one knows where it's going. No one knows where it ends. There is no plan. It is just a continual funnel of money to prop up a system to avoid near-term pain at the expense of long-term growth.
Well phrased.
Hey, Bill, let me ask you a question here. If we do get more regulation into the hedge fund industry, as we're discussing right now, does that mean that you're going to have larger hedge funds that are basically going to be like a mutual fund? Smaller hedge funds are going to be small enough to get around the regulation? Because, a lot of these guys are pretty smart here on the street.
I don't think the regulation is going to change the size or the scope. I mean, we have had regulation in the investment industry for a long time before hedge funds, and there were big firms and small firms. And if they want to regulate hedge funds, that's fine. I mean, but I think as the congressman said, I mean, or Toby said, Cody said, sorry, Cody. Fraud is still fraud, and so the SEC probably needs more people. Obviously, they were told about Madoff to pick the spectacular example. So there's another example of it's not about lack of regulation; it's about lack of enforcement.
All right,
that's interesting. That's interesting about the SEC.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they do need more people. That's a very good point.
Let's focus on now to the stress test, guys. Let's talk about Treasury Secretary Geithner for a moment. Liz Warren, the cop or the chief of the Congressional Oversight Panel for the bailout, accusing Geithner of seeing the whole problem with rose-colored glasses. She writes, "It is possible that Treasury's approach fails to acknowledge the depth of the current downturn and the degree to which the low valuation of troubled assets accurately reflects their worth." But wait, the plot thickens. Republicans working with Warren are dissenting. Former New Hampshire Senator John Sununu writing, "We are concerned that the prominence of alternative approaches presented in the report, particularly reorganization through nationalization, could incorrectly imply both that the banking system is insolvent and that the new administration does not have a workable plan." So, Congressman McCotter, does Geithner get it? My first question, and is the congressional cop Liz Warren Is she right that says, Treasury's plan doesn't acknowledge the depth of this economic downturn and that the low valuations of these bank-troubled assets means they're garbage, basically?
I think the stress test is a real problem. It's like going to a doctor when you know the results you want to get, and they prepare a stress test to make sure you're healthy.
The Illuminati, then. You're agreeing with Cody. That's Illuminati.
No.
Close, though.
Knights Templar. What we're concerned about is, with this report, is what you're seeing is what's absolutely true. They need certainty in the markets. They talk about debt for equity swaps. They show that this plan is not working. It's leading to the unintended consequences and chaos that we see. But what you're also seeing is the failure to understand that it's not a nationalization. You're already doing that.
Right.
It would be a step to a reprivatization that is necessary.
But Congressman, and that's the issue. I don't understand. It seems that the Republicans have been providing a cover for this fascist, socialist, slippery slope that we have been headed down, and they're doing it once again. We need to nationalize / reprivatize these banks and get this process over and done with. It's because we've already taken the steps we have. Why won't the Republicans allow it to happen? Are they just fascists and they want more control of these banks?
No, we're not.
Nice. Hey, real quick, can you answer that in like 10 seconds?
Yeah, in 10 seconds. You had people that, for good reason, in their heart of hearts, voted for the TARP last time, and it's very hard to get them to go back and try to undo that.
All right. Hey, Bill, really quick, I got to get the money perspective from you, Bill. Do you think that Geithner is off base in his projections for the economy?
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
I love you, Bill Fleckenstein. Toby Willis here.
Fast answers, Bill Fleckenstein. Love it.
Bill, thanks a lot. All right, Congressman, thanks for joining us.
Well, you're coming back, right, Congressman?
Yeah, we got more with
Now
Big
we're going to talk
Daddy,
about the auto
Congressman
sector.
McCotter. Guys, on tap, I've messed up this read already, but as the big three automakers debut their little cars, teeny little teeny cars, in New York this week, can the U.S. auto survive? Our own Shivani Joshi is joining us live in HD from the New York Auto Show when Happy Hour continues here on Fox Business, the only business network.
Look at that little car.
HD.